Welcome. Mental disorders are complex and often misunderstood conditions that can greatly impact an individual's life. In this video, edited by our youngest, we will hear from several people living with different mental disorders and the struggles they face. They will share what they would like people to understand better about their conditions, and how they hope to be perceived and treated by others. OCD is not quirky because it is distressing. One individual living with OCD shares that it is not a quirk, but rather a constant battle with distressing thoughts that cause a lot of distress. They explain that while they may not care about keeping their house neat, they have a compulsion to say goodnight to their pets in a certain order, and have disturbing thoughts that are not their own. They emphasize that OCD is not quirky, but rather a serious condition that affects their daily life. ADHD is a neurological disability. Another person living with ADHD explains that it is not just an outward hyperactivity behavior, but a neurological disability with a wide spectrum of symptoms and presentations. They mention that people with ADHD can present differently, which is why many are never diagnosed, or are diagnosed later in life. They also mention that it affects every aspect of their life, and that it is a tough and harrowing condition to conquer. Mental disorders are exhausting. A person living with a mental disorder shares that it is tiring, and that the effort they put into being a functional adult is exhausting. They mention that everything is difficult and that they are tired all the time. Mental illnesses are chronic and debilitating. Another person living with a mental disorder, specifically bipolar disorder, explains that mental illnesses are illnesses just like physical illnesses. They mention that they depend on medications to live, and that just because it's invisible, doesn't mean it isn't debilitating. They also mention that mental illnesses are not emotions and that they have to deal with their condition every day for the rest of their life. Psychosis and psychopath are not the same. An individual living with a psychosis explains the difference between psychosis and psychopath, and that they see and hear things that aren't there. They emphasize the importance of learning the difference between the two terms and that they are not the same thing. People with psychotic bipolar have varying moods. A person living with psychotic bipolar explains that most of the time they are pretty chill, but sometimes they are not. They mention that they hear voices and that they decide whether to listen to them or not. They also mention that they can almost control them, but that sometimes they need help. Hold mentally ill people accountable for actions. A person living with mental disorders shares that they believe the number one thing that can be done for people with mental disorders is compassionately holding them accountable for their actions. They mention that while they may not be in control of what goes on in their head, they are in control of their actions, and that holding them accountable can help them grow. Schizophrenia has different subtypes. A person living with schizophrenia explains that there are more than one type of schizophrenia and that not all people with schizophrenia experience the same symptoms. They mention that the term schizophrenia is often used as a catch-all term for any type of psychosis, but that there are different subtypes of schizophrenia, each with different symptoms and presentations. They hope that people will understand that schizophrenia is not a one-size-fits-all condition. Depression is not just sadness. An individual living with depression explains that it is not just feeling sad, but an overwhelming feeling of hopelessness, worthlessness, and emptiness. They mention that it is not something that can be snapped out of, or fixed with a pep talk, but a real illness that requires professional help and support. Anxiety is constant fear and worry. A person living with anxiety shares that it is not just being nervous, but constant worrying and fear that affects their daily life. They mention that it can manifest in physical symptoms such as heart palpitations and difficulty breathing, and that it is a real condition that requires professional help. In conclusion, mental disorders are complex conditions that can greatly impact an individual's life. The individuals shared in this story have highlighted the struggles they face and what they would like people to understand better about their conditions. From OCD being a distressing condition and not a quirk, to ADHD being a neurological disability, to the exhaustion that comes with living with a mental disorder, to the importance of compassionately holding people with mental disorders accountable for their actions, and the different subtypes of schizophrenia. It is important for everyone to educate themselves about mental disorders and to be more understanding and supportive of those living with them. Goodbye. Thank you for watching our video on the topic of mental disorders and the struggles faced by those living with them. We hope that this video has helped to educate and raise awareness about these complex and often misunderstood conditions. We encourage you to like and subscribe to our channel for more informative and thought-provoking content. Together, we can work towards creating a more understanding and supportive society for those living with mental disorders. Remember to be kind and compassionate towards those who may be struggling with mental health issues, and always seek professional help if you or someone you know is in need. Thank you for watching.